Welcome to the Psych Ignition channel. There's a hidden truth most people never face: the things you fear are the things that secretly own you. Every time you flinch, hesitate, or avoid, you're paying rent to those fears. Bit by bit, you hand over your freedom just to keep them quiet. And here's where it gets fascinating. Behavioral research shows that the human brain reacts to social rejection and public embarrassment almost the same way it reacts to physical pain. That's why most people would rather live small than risk standing out. But Sigma males? They move differently. They walk straight into the situations that make others tremble, not because they're reckless, but because they've reprogrammed their relationship with fear. Where most see a locked door, the Sigma sees a question: is the lock even worth picking? Today, we're peeling back the layers, exploring 12 fears that keep the average mind in chains, but barely make a Sigma blink. Some of these might sting. Some might make you laugh. But if you listen closely, you'll realize how often fear has been steering your life from the shadows, while the Sigma quietly turns that same fear into fuel. Number 1. Refusing to compete where the rules are rigged. Most people will step onto a battlefield even when they know the game is fixed against them. They can see the odds are twisted, the deck is stacked, and the system is designed to make them lose, yet they still play. Why? Because the need for recognition is stronger than the instinct for self-respect. They'd rather be bruised in public than invisible in private. They crave applause, even when it's coming from the very crowd cheering their downfall. It's not always about the reward, it's about being seen trying. That's how deeply the addiction to external validation runs in most people's minds. But Sigma males, they don't waste their energy fighting on a tilted field. If the rules are corrupt, they simply refuse to play. It's not arrogance. It's intelligence. They understand that victory in a rigged game isn't a triumph, it's participation in someone else's illusion. Even if you win, you lose, because the game was never designed for you to truly succeed. The Sigma walks away, not out of fear, but out of clarity. And that's the paradox: by refusing to engage, they often win more power than those who stayed and fought. Rigged systems need willing participants to keep the illusion alive. When someone capable of winning decides not to play at all, it exposes the lie behind the throne, revealing the so-called champions as nothing more than paper kings guarding toy crowns. The Sigma male would rather build his own arena, one where skill, precision, and mastery actually decide the outcome. He doesn't need to prove himself in someone else's game, he designs his own and wins there instead. This mindset terrifies manipulators because they can't bait him with ego, status, or validation. He's not trying to impress the spectators, he's too busy mastering his own strategy. In a world obsessed with applause, walking away is the boldest move. And that's exactly why the Sigma's silence echoes louder than any victory speech. Number 2. Being alone with themselves. Most people aren't actually afraid of being alone. They're afraid of what comes up when the noise disappears. It's not the silence that terrifies them, it's the mirror it holds. Because when the world quiets down, all that's left are their own thoughts. The regrets they've buried. The truths they've denied. The haunting voice that whispers the things they've been running from. That's what most people can't handle. So they surround themselves with noise, constant conversation, flashing screens, endless company. Distraction becomes their shield. They drown their thoughts in entertainment and call it relaxation, never realizing they're escaping from the only person they'll spend their entire life with, themselves. Sigma males, however, move differently. They don't just endure solitude, they seek it. Because they've already fought the hardest battle, the one within. They've sat in the silence long enough to make peace with their own chaos. They've dissected their flaws without flinching, faced the uncomfortable truths most people disguise behind smiles, and come to accept the raw version of who they are, unfiltered, unapproved, and unafraid. That's why solitude doesn't weaken them, it fortifies them. Their alone time is not an absence, it's a laboratory. It's where they refine ideas, craft strategies, and recharge the mental energy they spend navigating the world. For most, isolation feels like punishment. For the Sigma, it feels like freedom. Because when you're at peace in your own company, no one can use loneliness to control you. If someone tries to isolate a Sigma as a form of punishment, it backfires spectacularly, because solitude is where he becomes sharper. It's where he plans, grows, and returns even stronger. This is why you can't manipulate a man who's made friends with silence. He doesn't need noise to feel alive. He doesn't need validation to feel worthy. His mind is his fortress, and no one can breach it. Most people fear being left alone because it forces them to face the truth of who they are. Sigma males have already faced it, and found power there. That's why they move through the world untouchable. Because when your mind becomes a place you want to be, no one can exile you from peace. Number 3. Opportunities that slip away. Most people treat opportunities like rare, fragile birds. The moment one escapes, panic sets in, as if life will never offer another. That's not ambition. That's fear. Fear wrapped in scarcity thinking. They cling to toxic jobs, stale relationships, and one-sided deals because they believe this might be the last chance. They say yes when they should say no, not out of courage, but out of desperation. They call it seizing the moment, but deep down, it's fear of missing out dressed as drive. Sigma males, however, see the landscape differently. They know life doesn't operate on a single bus schedule where missing one stop means you're stranded forever. To them, life is an ocean, the waves keep coming. Some are small. Some are massive. Some you're not ready to ride yet. But there's always another. This mindset gives them an unshakable calm. They're not chasing every wave, they're studying the tides. They wait for the one that aligns with their timing, their vision, their readiness. And when it comes, they ride it with precision. That's what separates a Sigma from the rest. Patience isn't passivity, it's strategy. Because desperation makes people accept crumbs and call it a feast. The Sigma would rather let an opportunity pass than grab it before he's ready to dominate it. And here's the irony, that calm indifference makes opportunities chase them. People, projects, and partnerships are magnetically drawn to those who don't operate from fear of loss. Confidence without attachment has gravity. While the world scrambles to catch every falling coin, the Sigma stands still, knowing he can mint his own. He understands that missing out is not the end, it's just a test of faith in his own capacity to create anew. That's why you'll never hear a Sigma say, "I should have taken my shot." He doesn't live haunted by what slipped away, because he knows the ocean hasn't stopped moving, and neither has he. In the psychology of growth, attachment is the enemy of mastery. The Sigma lets go easily, not because he doesn't care, but because he trusts himself to build again, better, smarter, and on his own terms. That's real power. The kind that doesn't chase waves, it summons them. Number 4. Walking away from comfort. Most people spend their lives chasing comfort, soft beds, predictable routines, and a sense of safety that makes the world feel less threatening. They tell themselves they're chasing peace, but what they're really building is a prison with nice furniture. Comfort feels good, until it starts costing you your edge. Until you wake up one day realizing you've stopped growing, stopped exploring, stopped becoming. Comfort quietly kills the hunger that once made you move mountains. And that's why most people never escape it, because comfort whispers lullabies while it steals your potential. Sigma males understand this trap better than anyone. They know that every time life starts feeling too easy, it's a sign, not of success, but of stagnation. They can sense when the air around them starts getting too still, when the days begin to blur into predictable patterns. That's when they walk away. Not because they're restless. Not because they're reckless. But because growth requires friction. They'd rather walk into uncertainty than die slowly in a padded routine. For the Sigma, comfort isn't a destination, it's a warning sign. It means they've mastered their current environment and it's time to move on. And walking away doesn't always mean changing cities or jobs. Sometimes it means shedding an old version of themselves, the one that played small, that tolerated mediocrity, that stayed where it felt safe instead of where it felt alive. Most people cling to familiarity because they confuse it with happiness. But familiarity is just repetition with good marketing. It tricks the brain into thinking stable means fulfilled. The Sigma doesn't fall for that illusion. He's not addicted to feeling safe, he's addicted to evolving. And that's why he's willing to start over, again and again, when others are too afraid to take the first step. Every time he walks away from comfort, he reclaims his edge. Because only those who dare to be uncomfortable can unlock new versions of themselves. Only those who step into the unknown discover how powerful they truly are. The world calls it instability. The Sigma calls it rebirth. Number 5. Embracing uncertainty. Most people want life to come with guarantees. They want assurance before effort, safety before action, and certainty before commitment. But life doesn't work that way, it never has. The truth is, the universe rewards movement, not hesitation. And uncertainty? It's not the enemy. It's the forge. It's where real transformation begins. Yet most people treat uncertainty like a disease. They try to cure it with overthinking, routine, and control. They map every outcome, rehearse every scenario, and when reality doesn't match their script, they crumble. Because they were never taught to live without the illusion of control. Sigma males operate differently. They understand that uncertainty isn't something to fear, it's something to dance with. They move through it fluidly, adapting, recalibrating, flowing with change instead of resisting it. That's what gives them their quiet power. They don't need to know exactly how things will unfold, they just need to know they'll handle it. That trust in themselves is what separates them from the masses. While others drown in anxiety trying to predict the future, the Sigma builds confidence by meeting it head-on. He knows that certainty is often a cage disguised as stability. And that uncertainty, uncomfortable as it feels, is actually freedom, because it means possibilities still exist. Every great reinvention, every bold leap, every breakthrough was born in that fog of the unknown. The Sigma embraces it because he's learned something most people never realize. You can't discover who you are if everything around you stays predictable. Uncertainty strips away illusion and forces authenticity. It reveals character. It tests resolve. It shows you what's real and what's just talk. And that's where the Sigma thrives, in the chaos between what was and what will be. He doesn't need a clear path, he makes one. He doesn't demand a perfect plan, he trusts his instincts to improvise. Uncertainty is where creativity awakens. It's where the weak panic and the strong evolve. And for the Sigma male, it's not a threat to his peace, it's proof that he's still alive, still moving, still growing. Because the moment life becomes certain, it also becomes small. And he was never meant to live small. Number 6. Choosing solitude over society. In a world obsessed with connection, solitude has become almost rebellious. People fear being alone, not because they lack company, but because without others, they lose the reflection that tells them who they are. Society runs on mirrors. Status, approval, likes, trends, all mirrors designed to show you how you should feel about yourself. And the tragedy is, most people never realize they've built their entire identity on borrowed reflections. Sigma males step away from that circus. Not because they hate people, but because they refuse to be defined by them. They don't need validation to feel valuable, or social approval to feel alive. They walk alone because solitude offers something society never can, clarity. When you disconnect from the noise, you start hearing the truth beneath it. You begin to see how much of what people chase is empty performance. The loudest voices are often the most insecure. The smiles, the updates, the endless chatter, it's camouflage for uncertainty. The Sigma chooses solitude because it's the only environment honest enough to reveal who he really is. It's not isolation. It's filtration. He filters out the noise, the expectations, the endless comparisons, until only truth remains. And that truth is rarely glamorous. It's raw. It's uncomfortable. It demands growth. But that's where the Sigma thrives, in the quiet spaces where no one is watching. While society rewards conformity, solitude sharpens individuality. It teaches him to think independently, to feel deeply, to create without the weight of judgment. It frees him from the addiction to approval that keeps others enslaved. And here's the paradox: the man who learns to be content in solitude becomes magnetic in society. Because people can sense peace, and they crave it. His calm presence unsettles those still trapped in the noise. His silence speaks louder than their self-promotion. And his detachment becomes power, because you can't control someone who doesn't need your company. Solitude is not a weakness. It's a crucible, the place where character is forged, perspective is purified, and the mind becomes unshakable. The Sigma doesn't hide from the world, he simply chooses when and how to engage with it. He walks alone not to escape people, but to return to them unaffected. Because only a man who has mastered solitude can stand in society without losing himself. Number 7. Moving in silence. In an age where everyone broadcasts every move, silence has become the new mystery, and mystery, the new power. Most people announce their plans before they've even taken the first step. They crave acknowledgement more than achievement. They mistake attention for progress, applause for validation, and noise for movement. Sigma males see through that illusion. They understand that the more you reveal, the easier you are to predict and control. Power is not about being seen, it's about being unreadable. When a Sigma moves, he doesn't need witnesses. He doesn't post, brag, or explain, because explanation is a form of permission seeking, and he seeks none. He knows the moment you make your intentions public, you invite interference, envy, and resistance. So he guards his path like a secret manuscript, revealed only when the final chapter is complete. His silence is not emptiness, it's containment. He stores energy where others leak it. Every quiet decision, every unseen effort, compounds quietly in the dark, until one day, the results speak so loudly they drown out every doubt that was ever whispered about him. People often confuse his silence for arrogance or mystery. It's neither. It's discipline. It's the understanding that growth happens in the shadows before it ever sees the light. While others are busy announcing their goals, the Sigma is already executing them. While they seek validation, he seeks momentum. While they talk about what they will do, he simply does it. And that's why when he finally makes a move, it seems sudden, even shocking. But the truth is, he's been building it quietly all along, step by step, out of sight. By the time others notice, it's already too late to catch up. Moving in silence gives him control over his narrative. It lets him adapt, pivot, and grow without external pressure or expectation. It protects him from distraction, and shields his purpose from the noise of small minds. Because not everything powerful needs to be announced. Some of the most dangerous storms form quietly, without warning. And that's exactly how the Sigma prefers to move, calm on the surface, unstoppable underneath. Number 8. Observing instead of reacting. The average person lives in a constant state of reaction. Every insult, every rumor, every inconvenience triggers them like a reflex. They think they're making choices, but in truth, they're being controlled. By emotion. By impulse. By the energy of whatever happens to touch them. It's a trap, the kind designed by the world to keep you predictable. Because once people know how to provoke you, they own you. They can steer your emotions, shape your behavior, and drain your focus without you ever realizing it. Sigma males move differently. They've learned the rare art of observation, the ability to see without instantly reacting. When something happens, they don't rush to speak or to act. They watch. They analyze. They let the chaos reveal its own pattern. This pause, that quiet space between what happens and what they do next, is their hidden advantage. In that silence, emotion burns off, clarity takes form, and strategy emerges. While others lash out, overexpose themselves, or lose control, the Sigma simply collects data. He knows that silence is not weakness, it's surveillance. Every outburst he doesn't have becomes a weapon he saves for when it actually matters. By observing instead of reacting, he stays unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. People fear what they can't read. They try to provoke him, test him, decode him, but his calmness only unsettles them more. Because when you can't trigger a man, you can't manipulate him. And that's why the Sigma's composure often feels intimidating. He's not detached, he's deliberate. He feels emotion deeply, but he channels it with precision instead of letting it explode without purpose. His stillness is not the absence of feeling, it's mastery over it. The world runs on noise, outrage, argument, endless reaction. The Sigma steps outside that cycle. He understands that control isn't about dominating others, it's about not being dominated by your own emotions. Observation gives him vision. Vision gives him patience. And patience gives him timing, the most powerful weapon of all. Because the one who reacts first loses focus. But the one who watches, eventually sees everything. Number 9. Detachment from outcome. Most people are slaves to results. Every action, every decision, every effort is tied to a single fear: what if it doesn't work? They chase success, cling to victories, and agonize over losses, as if their worth depends on the outcome. That attachment to result becomes a cage, and the harder they try to control it, the more it controls them. Sigma males move differently. They focus on effort, intention, and execution, not the applause that follows. Their energy isn't consumed by fear of failure, or inflated by temporary success. It's steady, deliberate, and free. By detaching from outcomes, they achieve a kind of mastery that others can't even imagine. They can take risks without panic, pursue challenges without desperation, and act decisively because they're not bound by the tyranny of expectation. This isn't carelessness. It's strategic freedom. Because the moment you tie your self-worth to results, you surrender your power to forces outside your control. The Sigma refuses that surrender. He invests fully in what matters, the craft, the process, the preparation, and lets the universe handle the rest. Some may call it luck when things go his way. Others may call it patience, or wisdom, or even cold calculation. But the truth is simpler: he's free. Free from fear of judgment. Free from disappointment. Free from the illusion that life can be measured solely by trophies and accolades. And here's the most unsettling part for others: detachment doesn't make him passive. It makes him unstoppable. Because when you're not grasping at outcomes, you can respond with clarity, act without hesitation, and pivot when circumstances shift. While everyone else panics over every twist and turn, he flows through them with precision. And in the end, he often achieves more, not by chasing, but by moving without expectation. The Sigma male understands a profound truth. Control the process, master the self, and the outcome will take care of itself. And that freedom? It's a kind of power the world rarely sees, but always feels. Number 10. Speaking unwelcome truths. Most people avoid truth when it threatens comfort. They soften it, bend it, or swallow it entirely, fearing awkwardness, anger, or rejection. The cost of honesty seems too high, so they opt for the illusion of peace instead. But that illusion corrodes trust, clarity, and progress. Sigma males approach truth differently. They speak it, even when it cuts, even when it unsettles. Not to provoke or dominate, but to illuminate. Because they understand a vital principle: discomfort often sparks growth, while comfort breeds stagnation. To the Sigma, an unwelcome truth is not a weapon, it's a tool. A scalpel to dissect illusions, expose weaknesses, and reveal paths that no polite conversation could uncover. They drop facts without apology, but with purpose, a deliberate clarity others rarely possess. This is why Sigma honesty feels heavy. It's precise, intentional, and impossible to ignore. People may bristle, resist, or even resent it in the moment. But time usually proves the wisdom behind the words. And here's the subtle power. By speaking what others fear to voice, he becomes untouchable by manipulation. Most power games depend on silence, on bending to the unspoken rules of fear and expectation. The Sigma refuses that trap. He's immune because he does not seek approval. Truth spoken with intention commands respect, even if it stings. It shifts dynamics quietly, subtly, and irrevocably. The Sigma knows when to speak, when to pause, and when silence itself is louder than any words. This is not recklessness. It is strategy. It is the art of navigating reality with vision, not delusion. In a world addicted to comfort, politeness, and pretense, the Sigma male's unwelcome truths are disruptive. But they are necessary. They cut through illusion, ignite awareness, and reveal the path forward. Because for the Sigma, life is never about being liked. It's about seeing clearly, acting boldly, and shaping reality without flinching. Number 11. Losing a public argument. Most people fear losing in public as if it's a mark of weakness. The idea of embarrassment, ridicule, or judgment ignites panic. They argue louder, flail harder, and bend logic just to protect a fragile ego. Their sense of self becomes hostage to the audience, their identity tethered to approval. Sigma males, however, see the stage differently. They understand that not every battle is meant to be won in the moment. Sometimes stepping back is not surrender, it's strategy. A quiet concession can be the prelude to a larger victory, the setup for a move that others won't anticipate. Losing publicly doesn't bruise the Sigma's ego, because his identity is not bound to being right in the eyes of the crowd. He values the long game over the fleeting spotlight. He measures success by influence, control, and timing, not by immediate applause. When he lets someone else claim victory, he does so with intention. He allows overconfidence to settle in, mistakes to accumulate, and patterns to reveal themselves. And when the moment is ripe, he strikes, precise, calm, and devastatingly effective. This patience unsettles others. They expect confrontation to be a zero-sum fight, but the Sigma plays a different game entirely. He doesn't react for validation. He reacts for leverage. Every concession is deliberate, every silence measured. And in a world addicted to ego, that kind of mastery feels almost alien. The Sigma doesn't need to dominate every argument to command respect. He controls perception not by outshouting, but by outthinking. By refusing to be trapped in the shallow theater of public opinion, he preserves his energy, sharpens his strategy, and positions himself where it truly matters. Losing publicly is a tool, not a defeat. And the one who can lose without fear often wins where it counts most. Number 12. Not proving their worth. Most people live in a constant loop of proving themselves. Every action, every achievement, every word is a subtle plea: see me. Validate me. Approve of me. Their identity becomes a scoreboard, their value tied to applause, recognition, and acknowledgement. It's exhausting. And yet, few even notice they're trapped in it. Sigma males operate on a radically different principle. They don't seek validation, because their worth is not given, it simply exists. It's intrinsic, untouchable, and independent of anyone's approval. They know that performing for recognition is giving away power. Every time you seek applause, you allow someone else to define your value. The Sigma refuses that theft. He acts deliberately, only when action serves a purpose, leverage, growth, or a strategic advantage. To the world, he may appear aloof, even indifferent. And that's intentional. Underestimation is a tool, one he wields better than most. While others are busy displaying trophies and chasing recognition, he's quietly building, preparing, and mastering. The Sigma's achievements are precise, not performative. They carry weight because they are intentional, not because they are broadcast. He doesn't need the audience to validate his skill, his intelligence, or his presence. His confidence, competence, and control are self-sustained. This detachment unsettles the crowd. In a society addicted to approval, a man who doesn't need validation is almost untouchable. And therein lies his power. When worth is internal, influence becomes effortless, and freedom becomes a reality. The Sigma male understands the ultimate truth. You don't prove yourself to the world. You prepare. You master. You move silently, letting your actions, not your words, define the reality around you. And when the time comes, the world takes notice, but by then, it's too late to influence him. The world fears the Sigma male, not because he's reckless, loud, or aggressive, but because he is untethered. He doesn't chase validation, run from discomfort, or bend to expectation. He moves deliberately, acts strategically, and lives by his own rules. Every fear that paralyzes the crowd, of solitude, loss, embarrassment, or failure, becomes his playground. Every challenge, every uncertainty, every unwelcome truth is a tool he wields with precision. That's the essence of the Sigma, not dominance, but mastery. Not performance, but presence. Not fearlessness, but freedom. If you've been living in the invisible chains of expectation, comparison, or approval, remember this. You can face the shadows, embrace the unknown, and step into a life defined not by others, but by yourself. The Sigma male doesn't just survive. He thrives. And so can you, once you learn to walk your path without fear, without performance, and without apology. If this video gave you value, hit that like button and subscribe. Join this community of men who refuse to be ordinary. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and embrace the Sigma mindset. Thank you for watching.